Okay guys, I've been out of the movie of Avengers Endgame for about 30 minutes now, and it is time for me to give you my non-spoiler review of this movie. I really did enjoy this movie. It was a 3-hour movie, but it really did not feel like 3 hours. The time just really flew by. It was non-stop good stuff. I wouldn't say it was non-stop action, because in the beginning the movie does move a little slow. I've heard some people actually say that before the movie came out. Pretty much critics, I should say, and I get where they're coming from on that. But still, the first hour of the movie is still very good. There is some action in the beginning, and that first action scene, it is kind of surprising. Like I said, no spoilers at all. It's pretty much the Avengers team doing something, and they do something that I did not expect that early in the movie. But as the movie goes on, it just keeps picking up and up and up. And there is a lot to take in this movie. I don't know if they pretty much covered everything in this 3-hour movie. This movie could have been 4 hours long, and it probably wouldn't have been enough for the amount of stuff that's in this movie. I'm really wondering how much the raw cut of this movie was. It had to be 5-6 hours. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But I really do think that Robert Downey Jr. gave an outstanding performance in this movie. Iron Man and Captain America, they were really, really good in this movie. I'm going to look back at this movie and say this is their movie, because I think they really do stand out. Now, listening to what the Russo brothers said, they recommended that you actually go in watching Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. I'm going to make an amendment to that. After watching this movie, you pretty much have to watch every single MCU movie. They jam-pack everything into this. Now, Captain Marvel is really the only one you don't have to see. Spider-Man Homecoming, you don't have to see. But you definitely have to see Doctor Strange. You definitely have to see the Avengers Part 1, especially. Pretty much every single one. You're going to have to watch Thor, The Dark World. That movie, you're going to have to watch that. And if you actually saw Avengers Endgame, you'll see why. Watch them all. This is definitely not for the casual MCU fan. If you're just a casual MCU movie watcher, you haven't watched all of the movies, you're not going to get the most out of this movie. And that is amazing that the Russo brothers were able to pretty much combine everything into one movie. I was shocked at how good it was that they can actually do that. And I understand why the movie is 3 hours. Like I said, it could have been longer. It could have been 4 hours, and it probably still wouldn't have been enough. But the movie is really, really good. I don't think it was as good as Infinity War, because I think that the highs of Infinity War were better than the highs of this movie. But this movie is a very, very satisfying conclusion to the MCU. Now, technically, Spider-Man Far From Home is the final movie of this phase. But watching this movie, this felt like the end of phase 3 to me. Actually, it kind of felt like the end of the franchise completely, the way they ended this movie. And the ending of the movie was, I don't know, to some people, I guess it was kind of expected, but maybe it wasn't. Because I know one thing, I wasn't like overly surprised by the ending of the movie, because some of the predictions that I had about this movie going in were correct. One major one was I was absolutely correct on it. And I'll talk about that in a spoiler review. But it's not what you, the things that you watch in the in the trailers is not exactly the way it plays out in the movies. And the Russo brothers were right about that. But yet, when they said that whatever you watch in the trailer, they said it's probably not going to be in the movie. I'm not going to completely agree with that. I'm going to save that for a spoiler review, but I'm not going to completely agree with that. I think the Russo brothers tried to pull a fast one on us when it came to the trailers, but just watching the trailer, they didn't give away anything. But when you watch the movie, then you can kind of piece together the trailers, if that makes sense. So this movie is a clear A. I'm giving this movie an A. It really is a very, very good movie. It's an exciting conclusion to the MCU. Like I said, it felt like the MCU was just ending. If there is some flaws with this movie, there is a bunch of characters. There may be actually too many for even a 3-hour movie. Like I said, they're combining like every single movie into one. If you watch Captain America, the first Avenger, everything is accumulating from that. The first Avengers movie, Doctor Strange. They're just combining a whole bunch of characters in this movie, and it may be just a little bit too much. So some characters may only have like 1 minute of screen time. And you're like, well, who is that? And you may see somebody else. They may have like 3 minutes. Who is that? That kind of thing. So, but the elephant in the room is, how was Captain Marvel in this movie? This is not a spoiler, but Captain Marvel isn't in this movie a whole lot. And to me personally, they could have made this movie easily without her at all. She doesn't, to me, have that big of a role in this movie. Yeah, she does something, but they could have easily made this movie without her. Her story in this movie is completely unimportant to this movie. I think they really kind of put her in this movie to set up her in the next phase of the MCU. So you don't have to worry about her taking over the movie. This movie is not her story. It's not about her taking over the Avengers. It's not like that at all. And I think they used her appropriately. I think Brie Larson did a good job for what she was asked to do in this movie, which really wasn't a whole lot. So to wrap this all up, I think my expectations were super high going into this movie, as it should be. Infinity War was an all-time great movie, but I guess I should have not expected this movie to be better than Infinity War. And as of right now, I don't think it's as good as Infinity War, but Infinity War was an A+ movie. This is an A movie. It's still really, really good. And there's all type of things in this movie that you don't expect. If you look at Thor in this movie, Thor is not who you think he is compared to the other movies. He's just not. And people that have seen Endgame and you watch Thor in this movie, they will actually be surprised at the way he is in this movie. I think he was the biggest character change out of all the movies. Captain America, very, very strong in this movie. There is I guess, this connection with him and Thor that I'm going to save for a spoiler review. And it really, really did surprise me. It really, really surprised me. It's in the third act of the movie. Him and Thor and Captain America does something. And I'm like, wow, everybody was kind of like gassed in the movie theater when it happened. And it's very, very hard to talk about that without giving away any spoilers whatsoever. As far as the crying goes, I didn't cry in this movie. All of these other reviews, the early reviews, were saying that they cried. I was going into this movie expecting to cry, and I've never cried in a movie before, and I didn't cry in this one. I never got to the brink of emotion in this movie, but the scene I think that people cried in, I understand why they cried. And I thought that I would, but it didn't get to me like that. It really, really didn't. You know, even the end of the movie, you know, that was emotional at the end, but it didn't get to me. I'm just not a crier for movies. I just don't cry for movies. That's just me. But guys, this was a very, very solid movie. Go see it. Check out my channel on Saturday. Me and Roach Rants on Star Wars. We're going to go live and we're going to give you a spoiler review on the live stream. So I think we're going to do it at noon Central Time on Saturday. So get ready for that. So guys, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. If you're new here to the channel, please hit subscribe to catch future videos from me. And we will catch you on the next video. John Matrixx, out.